Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's C-O-M-B-E-S-T, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?
It's me, Egbert, once again. I'm the new owner of this station. I went out and hired the best talk radio consultant, Jeff Allen from News Talk STL, and told him to hire the worst talent he could find. Jeff did exactly as I told him. Ladies and gentlemen, here are Brad and John.
John, before we get back into what we're discussing there, I have to bring up something which I find sort of fascinating. You know, as crazy as this is, and when I tell this to people, people are always going like, but you're a radio guy. I am a huge video guy, and I think you know this about me.
Yeah,
I am a huge fan of YouTube, and I know people are going to go, oh my God, he's a YouTube guy. I'm fascinated by these guys that I follow, the auto guys, the Watch JR Go and Cletus McFarlane and Whistling Diesel and people like that, making literally millions of dollars off of YouTube. And the way it's done is that you essentially get to a certain level and your channel gets monetized. Now, the whole concept behind YouTube is fascinating to me because of the fact that if you are a movie studio, and in order for you to make money, you have to spend money to buy a script and hire a producer and a director and actors and the team that goes out, and the technical team that goes out with the cameras and the microphones. You have to pay all those people, okay? And then you take the movie and you market it, which costs you more money. And then essentially after the dust settles, hopefully you've made more than you've spent, okay? YouTube model is backwards in that people are giving YouTube free content. They're grinding out content morning, noon, and night. And what happens is YouTube essentially is saying, we're not going to pay you anything until you hit critical mass. Then when you hit critical mass, we're going to send you a check every week, every day, every month. I don't know how quick it's done, okay? Having said that, I'm watching our YouTube numbers like a hawk. And having said that one step further, if you're listening to this right now on a YouTube, and we're not broadcasting it live on YouTube, but it's being recorded and we put it up on YouTube, we put it up as a podcast. And starting about 2 months ago, we started putting up it as a YouTube video. So every day we post 3 YouTube videos. Our numbers keep growing. Not anything to, if like Whistling Diesel looked at our numbers, he'd go like, you guys, you don't even scratch the surface. But what's interesting is you read the stories about these guys who are now making buku bucks on YouTube. They started like with one video, like 2 or 3 or 4 years ago, and it just grew and grew and grew. Our numbers are really starting to grow. And I set us up for future monetization, and I shot you that screenshot. You know, I shot you. Did you see that?
Yeah, we're 1/1000th of the way there, I think.
So we're far away. Well, the interesting thing was in some of the categories we're already there. We produce enough.
Yeah.
We produce enough content, and what I'm saying is, in order for us to hit the monetization thing, we have to have 500 subscribers. And we picked up like 3 or 4 subscribers just yesterday. We're up to like 140 subscribers. So if you're listening to this on YouTube at some future point in the time from when this was recorded, and I'm going to be like one of the YouTube guys, hey, hit that subscribe button.
Like and subscribe. And Brad, it's a good opportunity for us to say thanks to so many people. Share links. They shared it back when we was on my website. I used to link directly to bjshow.co, and now I link to the YouTube clips. But thanks to everybody. In the last couple days, whether you're Camellia Peterson or Scott Fawn, and the dangerous thing is that we're going to end up leaving people out. Gene Evans, the people that share the links to the YouTube sites, every single one of you, we appreciate all of you. We appreciate everything you do to spread the word of what we talk about.
Right. Now, I will share an off camera or off microphone conversation that John and I had. Okay, I started my career in this business 51 years ago as a DJ, okay? And I did that for a while and morphed into other things, morphed into a talk show host and then did traffic reporting for a long time. And I want to say 5 years ago, Shelley Barr just hounded the living crap out of me about doing a show. And I don't really want to go back on the air anymore. I'm burnt out on that. I've done that for too long. I don't want to do it. Finally, she hounded me so much that we ended up doing a show called The BS Show, Brad and Shelley Show, okay? And the interesting part of this, that's how John Combest essentially and I got together, is he became a listener of this show.
That's right.
How in the world that ever happened, I'll never know. But he started listening to the show and making comments, and you actually were quoting me sometimes in some of the things you were publishing on your Facebook page and shout out to Scott Fawn from the Missouri Times.
I would mention you in my Missouri Times columns, yeah.
Right. Okay. So I would tell Shelley this, and the reason the Brad and Shelley show disappeared is I don't think Shelley would be upset when I say this. Shelley has some health issues, and to be honest with you, this is nothing that's a secret. She's talked about this for a long time. Shelley has multiple sclerosis, and she is a person that every single day fights the disease to get up, to work, to meet people, go to the chambers, still working with selling advertising for me and things like that. And I have the utmost respect for her because of the fact that people sometimes, and this is not a hit piece when I say this, sometimes people who get some sickness or something like that, they just essentially said, well, you know what, I'm just going to stay home and do nothing all day long because I've got whatever it is. And there are people that get up, and despite whatever their medical condition, go out and do it. Well, long story made short, Shelley could not do the show anymore. And we tried. She had a major operation. She was in the hospital for a month. And nowadays you can have a heart transplant on a Monday and they kick you out on a Wednesday morning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The way the medical system is right now. You give birth at 3 o'clock in the morning and you're out at, the mother's out of the hospital at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that kind of a thing. So that's how I ended up with John. Long story made short, I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed my time with Shelley. We had a lot of fun, and I enjoyed this time with you, John, and I told you that the other day.
Thank you, Brad. I appreciate you expressing that, and you know that I feel the same way.
Once again, you're the political geek, and I'm a semi-political geek. You're into this up to your elbows. I'm up to this to like my knees, but yet what I see on a daily basis, which frustrates me, is I see propaganda being perpetrated by the governments on many levels, and it bothers me. And what this show, to a certain extent, gives you and I the chance to come on here and make some comments. And I don't think we ever get really Tracy Ellis weird. You know what I mean? From the respect
I get what you're saying.
Respect that, once again, her show is far right wing. That's her whole radio stage. Far right wing. And they always talk about rhinos, okay? And there was a time we were running a promo. We were actually sort of making fun of the fact that, hey, we don't want, certain kinds of listeners. I thought to myself, that's wrong. We want everybody. And to the point where we're not going to say, if you're a rhino, don't listen to our station because you're a terrible person. That would be like me saying, if you're a Jewish person, don't listen to our radio station because we don't like Jews, which is so bad right now. This crazy crap going on in New York City at Columbia and Yale and places like that. I still cannot believe I am the son of a World War II veteran. If my father was still alive, he would be horrified what's happened. Now, I'm not Jewish. I'm German. My dad, is part German and part Russian. I don't know whatever. He is still sort of interesting story with my dad, with his father who left him when he was 2 years old. So there's all sorts of weird crap going on there. But to the point where my dad fought the Germans who were killing the Jews. And how in the world we can have people stand up at colleges, and these people who are going to college right now are going to be the lawyers and the doctors and the professors and the teachers and the business people that are going to run this country in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. I'm shocked. I truly am shocked. I don't get it. How in the world can you essentially say, and once again, let's do the Tony Colombo flip test. If they were saying, well, black people, the world would melt down. Biden would be every single day, well, I can't believe we got these people that don't like black people. They're terrible people. We want to throw them in jail. But because it's the Jewish people, the Jews, we don't necessarily need them too, do we?
I think that, but Brad, I think one of the things that is influencing the pro-Hamas messaging has been TikTok, because I think everyone points to the fact that there's a lot of pro-Hamas messaging on TikTok. The other thing is, and I think it's Israel's critical mistake, is they haven't said that all the support for them is really about supporting Missouri education. And if you oppose more funding to Israel, then you really oppose Missouri education, Brad.
John, this is what I like about you, because you have been immersed in this comms guy stuff for so long. You can take anything and spin it to the point where it's like a top moving around on
I appreciate the compliment, Brad. And also what I think that Israel is missing out on, why are they not spraying Roundup all over Gaza? You know, you would be able to control tough-to-control weeds by using a product that has a proven history of efficacy and safety.
And if Gaza got more profitable, those people could jump in a plane and come over and watch a Cardinals game, right?
They could watch a Cardinal game in that decrepit 20-year-old stadium. And then, Brad, you know what? If they got all their paperwork, go to Kansas City. Quentin Lucas has his arms open. Now, you know what I think we should do, Brad? In honor of the fact that, first of all, you and I did not celebrate 420 together, which is an important marijuana day that happened over the weekend. You know, here's an idea, Brad. We'll run this up the KRAP and KSLQ flagpole and see if Egbert salutes it. I bet you Jack Cardetti would love to have a conversation about Missouri education and sports betting. And similarly, in a different segment, friend of the show, Eapen Thampy, has offered to come on and talk a little bit about – I got a couple facts wrong about Delta 8, you know, that intoxicant that's kind of like marijuana but kind of not.
Right.
And we talked about that. Eapen wants to clarify some of the things that I got wrong about Delta 8. One day, Brad, we could have a sports – we could have a sin day. We could talk a little bit about THC, and we could talk about sports betting. And I bet you both those folks would be up for it.
Okay, first off, a couple things. You said something. Someone texted me over the weekend. I'm not going to say who it was because I don't want to embarrass them. And they texted me over the weekend saying, OMG, aren't you celebrating this holiday? And I thought to myself,
and you're like, what holiday is that?
What holiday did I miss? 420. Now, the crazy part of this is I got on my app, I'm a fast food junkie, I'll admit, I got on my app something from McDonald's talking about, hey, come in on 420. And I'm going like, hold on a minute. Is this like, you know, do a doobie and then go to McDonald's for munchies?
I think that's the gimmick.
I mean, like, what the hell is this? One of my favorite crazy stories is, I don't know if you've heard this story or not. I love the drive and I love the highways and stuff like that. There was a problem that Colorado kept having, that somebody kept stealing the milepost 420 in Colorado.
Yes, I remember that.
Yes.
They kept having to replace it.
Right, they kept having to replace the milepost because it had like the Colorado logo on it or something like that, and it had 420 on it. So what they did was they moved the sign like about 10 feet, and it was mile number 419.999.
And then no one would steal it.
So nobody would steal the 420 sign.
Here's my impulse control / self-control challenge this year, Brad. I will be somewhere. I was at a major kids sporting location. You know, I'm pretty private about what I do with my kids, but I was at a major location where kids happened to do some activities, and got out of my car, Brad, and a dude in a big truck with the windows down is just spreading his smoke all over the parking lot, Brad. And my offspring said to me, that smells like a skunk. And I said, keep walking. And we moved our car to the opposite side of the parking lot because I don't want to walk by it. I don't want to smell it on my clothes and my hair. But that's where we are, Brad. And I here's my personal challenge. Everywhere you go at any sort of major event, you're going to smell weed. And I think, okay, if I have a visceral reaction to this every time I smell it, I'm going to wear myself out. It's like dealing with a worthless, cowardly Twitter troll. If you give them any attention, it's going to wear you down. They live for your attention. Similarly, if I got mad every time I smelled weed in a public place, I'd spend the summer of 2024 being pissed off, Brad.
Well, it comes into the situation of you're right to swing your fist ends at the tip of my nose, and this goes back to the old smoking thing. I'm an old guy to the point where how many times I'll tell you an interesting story. Guy Phillips was the quintessential anti-smoker, okay? And I was with him when this happened. And what he did was he used to carry a big stinky cigar with him. He didn't really smoke cigars, but honest to God, true story. He was at a restaurant. I was with him, and it was somebody there from other people from the station. Somebody right next to us sat down, and I believe we were actually in the no smoking section, back in the day when they had smoking and non-smoking sections. And they light up a cigarette, and of course the smoke always drifts. There's like an unwritten rule that the smoke always drifts to the people who don't smoke. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do know exactly what you mean.
It's just like one of those crazy things. So he whips out his cigar and fires it up and starts blowing his smoke right at this person. And the person gets ticked off. Hey, that smells. That's terrible. What are you doing smoking? You're not supposed to be smoking cigars in here. And guy essentially said, I'll make you a deal. You stop smoking your cigarette, I'll stop smoking my cigar. And the guy would, and once again, the angle of that is that person thought it was perfectly okay for him to smoke and have his smoke go wherever, into people who are non-smokers, but yet you can't have a cigar because that's offensive even to the smokers. And it's the same thing. I mean, I remember my friend from my high school friend, Gary Light, who is an ex-police officer, and you can sort of see the bias there. And I remember seeing his Facebook post, not this year, but last year when the Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl. He went to the parade and talked about how you could have gotten a contact high by just standing watching the parade. And I'm thinking to myself, how sad is this?
Yeah. And so I also think, Brad, so I remember in my day, in the 90s, when I used to go to the establishment known as Riverport Amphitheater, which is now known as Hollywood Casino. And you'll note, Brad, despite all your anti-casino messaging, the Hollywood Casino is on that big, giant river out there. So casinos are always on big rivers. They stuck to the letter of the law. But I remember going to Riverport, and I would go to Point Fest and just come home smelling like weed. And it was disgusting. But also, before I would go to Point Fest, I would think, okay, going to be a lot of potheads here. It's 1996. People are going to bring weed in and smoke at a Riverport. And you know what? The cost of doing business of seeing a Point Fest concert was having to deal with potheads smoking weed. But when you're going to a kid's sporting facility, because of recreational or adult use marijuana, the cost of doing business is you're going to get a contact high, and your kid's going to get a contact high walking into the sporting facility.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, and once again, I'm the guy. I'm a libertarian kind of guy, and I'm the guy that once again I do really truly subscribe to the theory that my right to swing my fist ends at the tip of your nose, and to the point where if my actions essentially negatively impact you, then I've done something wrong. Okay, and that's just the way I look at it. You know?
And when you think about consequences too, Brad, the other holiday that we didn't celebrate yesterday was Earth Day. And I'm a little upset that you didn't celebrate with me. We are the first carbon zero radio station in St. Louis, as far as I know.
Don't get me going about that. Okay, real quick, we started talking about this and we didn't really finish up. The Cardinals. The interesting thing is, who is it, Jack DeWitt the third or something like that?
Yeah, Bill DeWitt. Yeah. Let's call him Jack DeWitt.
Whatever his name is. Okay, once again, I'm not being jealous because they're multimillionaires and I'm not. I'm essentially saying, okay, it's like me and NPR. Okay, if you want to be Mr. Liberal News Network, that's fine. I don't care, but I don't want the government paying for it. And the same situation with the Cardinals. The interesting aspect of this, I read an interesting article that talked about that Stan Kroenke did guys like me a favor. And you know what he did?
Oh, what'd he do?
He essentially built a huge, monstrous stadium with his own money.
Yep.
Okay, remember the whole deal was but when he was still in town and they were trying to get in. And what's the guy's name? He used to be Dave Peacock, who was the guy who ran
Peacock,
the ex-AB guy, the ex-AB figurehead who was hired by the InBev people to essentially say, we're still local. We haven't moved any jobs out of St. Louis.
a.k.a. Bear 1.0, and now Bear is InBev 2.0.
Right. What was the comment you said that when Monsanto got bought by Barr, you said one of your bosses.
Liam Condon said, by the way, the unfortunately named Liam Condon. Imagine having to have conversations with reporters, Brad, and say, hey, do you want to speak to Liam Condon? You had to make sure you get that right. But he said, we won't InBev you. By the way, big month for Bear layoffs. You
Right.
can probably read about it in the Post-Dispatch coming next week. Go ahead, Brad.
And not only that, 2/3 of the Monsanto / Bayer headquarters is now up for sale, and apparently they're going to tear it all down and build condos and all sorts of stuff there. Okay, so the interesting thing that comes out is there's noise, and you know how this works, John, because you're an expert at this. There's noise coming out about the fact that, well, the Cardinals, the new Busch Stadium #3 is approaching 20 years old. And all of a sudden, there's some rustling of people saying, well, you know what? It needs some renovation. It's 20 years old. And, oh, my God, who's going to pay for that? Maybe the state will pay for it. I'm going... And then he comes out, well, that's not necessarily the case. And he gives some quote about, I don't really even know what to say because we don't even know what we're going to do in the future. So how in the world are we knowing that we're going to try to get state money? I'm going, if the state or the city or the county, because even though it's not in the county, but you know the deal with the dome, the county was invested in that as well too. If they put 1 penny into Busch Stadium renovation, I'm going to be PO'd because the Cardinals have a printing press that they print money with. Matter of fact, my son, he went to a Cardinals game and he got a mixed drink. It was like vodka and Red Bull or something like that. And he said he almost told the lady to take it back. It was $30. Okay, now you
premium alcohol, Brad.
You tell me the profit margin in a glass that maybe has what? An ounce and a half?
Ounce and a half. Maybe if it's a double, then probably 3 ounces.
Okay.
But here's what I would love to see, or here's what we will see. If I'm with the Cardinals, Brad, I've gotten the directive from up above that this year we are hosting everybody, Brad, more than usual. So this year you're going to see somebody from the March of Dimes coming in and having, hey, we'd love to have you to the stadium. You know what, you guys, I don't think we've ever had you guys taking a tour. Why don't you come out one day? Bring your executive board. We'll have you do a tour. The Cardinals would be courting every community organization because in 2026, 2027, whenever they want to put this on a ballot, they're going to need to lean on those groups, Brad. So the groups that haven't been touched in a while, that haven't been massaged in a while, you have them come to the stadium, you give them some free stuff. We value you as a part of the community. You know, the Cardinals are a part of the community too. Let me tell you a little bit about what we do. You want to meet with Bill DeWitt? Let's take a dugout tour. So they're going to begin working these community organizations, Brad, and then the ask comes in 2026. Hey, we really need you for this. You guys saw how bad that crack in the foundation was. We just need a little bit of help, guys.
See, the irony of this is we've already been through 3 Busch stadiums, okay? This is Busch Stadium #3, okay? And yet you can go to Fenway Park in Boston, which is what, 80, 90, 100 years old?
More
something
than
like
probably 100, right? That's pushing 100.
You go to Wrigley Field, you know, and once again, it's a small little antiquated type place. And people talk about, oh, my God, one of my bucket list is to go watch a game at Fenway Park and see the Green Monster or to go to Chicago and go to Fenway Park. And I'm going like, okay, explain this to me, why heritage in some markets is appreciated and almost you know, like adorned, you know, I mean, not adorned, that's a wrong word, but, you know, in other words, it's like people are like, oh my God, it's a baseball the way it used to be. And remember the crazy thing about this whole crazy thing was they talked about the cookie cutter stadiums.
Yes, in the 60s, Riverfront Stadium,
right.
Three Rivers Stadium, Busch Stadium.
Right, they're cookie cutter stadiums. Okay, the new Busch Stadium is a cookie cutter stadium that looks just like the ballpark in Denver, which I've been in before. It's It's one of these throwback parks, like it's the way baseball used to be. It's cookie cutter, you know, and once again, it's to the point where, and I'm not getting anti-Cardinals, I'm to the point where you and I talked about this a couple weeks ago, where there was a news story, it was in the Post-Dispatch, to talk about Cardinals have the lowest night attendance in since the history of the new Busch Stadium. And I said to you, John, guess what the attendance was? And I think you guessed.
I guess like 19,000.
Yeah, and it was 39,000 people, okay?
Incredible.
Once again, if you go to Miami, where the Marlins play, if they had 39,000 people come to a home game, they wouldn't know what to do. They would be doing this.
People would get a bonus. The marketing team would get a bonus.
They would be doing the Snoopy dance, out on whatever the main street is in there, because of the fact that they've never had 39,000 people in the stadium for, a home game, or something like that. And once again, the Cardinals are spoiled. They're spoiled. And that's, to a certain extent, once again, I've had, shall we say, professional relationship with the Cardinals, because on our other station, we ran the Cardinals for 5 years. I saw behind the scenes, and it was sort of like, joke, there's two things you never want to see being made, sausage and legislation. It's the same way with professional sports teams. It's the same way you see behind the scenes. You go like, I don't know if I'm really into this anymore.
I know. And before I log out of FanDuel, do you want me to put some money on the Cardinals game tonight?
Yeah, go ahead and put 100.
I'm going to text Cardetti and see what you can get. I think he could probably get us a little better odds than are on the app.
You know
I'll
what?
Text him.
Here's what I want to bet on. I want to bet on listening to Jack. What's his name? Jack Cardetti. Is that his name?
Yeah, Jack Cardetti.
I want to bet on Jack Cardetti being on a show promoting the gambling initiative and not mention education. And you know what?
Brad, that would be like you going a whole broadcast without talking about Tracy Ellis.
That's almost impossible. Okay, John, we're way over. Say goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?